Hello to everybody. Thank you all for joining me at this time. My name is Shavi Zane, and I am coming on to do a message in regards to what's going on right now. Okay, now obviously, throughout this message, I will use code words. Um, and so I know that you all will be able to follow along in terms of that. But as you all know, that there is a battle that is happening right now. Okay. And for me, I personally do not watch the news, but I do see like different links that'll, through YouTube or Facebook, and it'll, let me know what's going on in different areas. And so I feel compelled to look into these things every so often, okay, because I don't like to become consumed with that energy. And I don't suggest that you all do it either. But right now, I'm not an astronomer. I'm not very well versed when it comes to astronomy, but I am coming into an understanding in regards to the shifts that have taken place in terms of Pluto coming back around concerning the birth of the U.S. corporation. Okay. And so the astrologers generally watch to see how these different planetary alignments, when they come back around, will affect the forward movement of particular nations and establishments. Okay. And so on February 22nd of this year, 2022, so this will be 222 all of those twos represent balance, okay? They represent justice, okay? And so February 22nd, 2022 is when Pluto returned. Um, and this is the first time that Pluto has returned. Okay, the United States approaches the first hit of its Pluto return since its signing of the Declaration of Independence, which would be like the official birthday of the United States corporation based on the astrologers, okay? And so when Pluto returns, Pluto is the planet of transformation. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. Now, you have two sides to Pluto depending on how that particular nation handles that particular, I guess you might call it transit or that shift. The United States, the U.S. corporation is now being placed in a position where they have the opportunity to acknowledge many of the dark things that they have done since creating this particular structure, not America, because America existed before the U.S. corporation was formulated, but since they created the U.S. corporation, this is now the birth date of the creation of the U.S. corporation because it is a corporation, okay? It is a business. Many people do not know that, but it is a business, okay? And so now that it is the birth date of this particular entity, this is the time to reconcile with the darker parts of its history, okay? So right now they're having to face the dark, the underworld, the darkness of those things that they have done. Now, I don't need to do a history lesson in terms of what the US corporation did in order to create its power and its structure. But we all know that it was planted from a very bad and corrupted, rotten seed, okay? And so when it comes to having to reconcile with its darker parts, then you understand that it pretty much, the US corporation will have to reconcile with every facet of its being, okay? And so there's two sides to this. Now, they can reconcile and face these things that they have done and do what's necessary to balance out the energy from a justified space, from integrity, okay, from honor and integrity. Or there's another side to it where they can get even darker, okay? This can turn into physical battles, WAR, okay, all out war, okay? It can go darker, or they can use this opportunity to, like I said, reconcile what they have done and shift the energy to work out in their favor, maybe, okay? Maybe. Because see, what's happening is I'm going to be pulling the cards. I'm just letting y'all notice we already 5 minutes in. I will be pulling the cards to see what the energy of Pluto is where this is taking the U.S. corporation, and also seeing what their plan is and what we can expect moving forward. And I want you all to go back and check out my I did a reading about 2 months ago. It was called "What is the U.S. Planning and How Might It Affect Us?" Okay, so that was like maybe 10 to 12 readings back. Um, but go check that out, because what came out in that particular message was in regards to two uh now looking back at that time, I thought it was like a couple, like two people, somebody that was in a position of authority that would be going against their spouse and having some sort of public battle. But it did come out in that message that there would be, that behind all of that, it was preparation for war to actually take place. Okay, go back and watch that message, because when I went back to look at it now, it all makes sense. So we know that marriages is generally a contractual agreement. And so in that message, it spoke a lot about marriage and the separation of one person from another, or one entity from another. And so there's a lot of separation that's happening right now, because see, this is a big deal for the U.S. corporation in terms of Pluto coming back around, okay? Because now we're talking about death and rebirth, okay? And I just so happened to be reading a part in the book of Revelations. I don't remember exactly what scripture it was, but it was speaking on the scorpions, a lot about scorpions, okay? And so, as you know, the Scorpio, the sign of Scorpio, the ruling planet is Pluto, okay? So that's all about death and rebirth right there, transformative energy. And so this is a time of transformation right here on this soil for the U.S. corporation. And I strongly feel that this is where they're going to have to face their demons, okay? And literally have to face all of the things and the atrocities that they have done against the people right here on this soil, as well as those who they have gone against in other countries, because they couldn't just keep their dirt here. They had to move their dirt all across the globe, okay? And so we're talking about an energy that's making them have to face something that they've never had to face before. And not only is Pluto has Pluto come back around, but also this is happening in the age of Aquarius, in the age where the gods, the goddesses, the kings and queens have awakened. Okay, and during this time, you already know, for those of you who know who you are, you've been putting in the work. You've been doing the healing. You've been doing the prayers. You've been putting out. You've been breaking the generational curses. You've been declaring and decreeing in the spiritual realm the righteous judgment and justice be established on your behalf and on behalf of your ancestors. I know I have. And so, for those of you who have been in that energy, we have established a certain type of energy in the spiritual realm, even prior to Pluto coming back around, to force the U.S. corporation to face their demons. Okay. And so it's like everything, while I wasn't watching the planets and that to that degree, everything is now making sense in terms of why there was so much urgency and why my life got shifted and pretty much twisted inside out in order for me to wake up and see that it was time for me to take my power back and recognize and wake up to who I am. And so many of you might have been going through these massive transformative times in your life where you didn't understand why all of these shifts was happening. Some of you understood, but many of us didn't understand why these shifts was taking place. But it puts you in a position of waking up in the age of Aquarius, because in this time we needed to wake up in order to establish our authority. We needed to wake up in order to demand that righteous judgment and justice be established on our behalf. We needed to wake up in order to break the generational curses before this time right here took place. So that now that we have established the energy, we have created the environment in the spiritual realm, because that's always been our position. We've always had the authority to do that, but we was put asleep. And as those dry bones, there was nothing in that time, we was not aware to do what we naturally know how to do, which is create that energy in the spiritual realm. Okay, we have the authority over the spiritual realm, whereas these people took their authority in the physical realm, and they knew that we had authority in the spiritual realm from the very beginning. And this is why they had to shift our attention towards a false illusionary god, okay, the one that they created, that would ultimately work for them, but work against us. And they needed our prayers, they needed our attention, they needed our emotions and our focus and our energy to go towards that God, because that God is what fed the beast. That God, that illusionary God that they created, was the beast that kept their empire standing. But now, in your awakening, many of you know that that particular God, the specific European Christ, you know that that's not the true Christ. You know that that is a false illusionary God that was given to your ancestors in a time of, very traumatic and painful events happening in their life, where they needed to feel like they had some sort of connection, because their connection that they had prior had been beaten out of them. They had been beaten to forget the power that they possessed in the spiritual realm. And so they clung to a false version of who the Most High is and fed their energy to the beast, which the beast needed our energy in order to stand strong. So now in the age of Aquarius, we have awakened. We've pulled ourselves away from that particular structure. We've taken our power back in the spiritual realm. We won the spiritual warfare. And now everything that happens in the spiritual realm has a direct reflection in the physical realm. So as above, so below. We've created the atmosphere in the spiritual realm to establish righteous judgment. So now here you see that there's war breaking out, because there was a spiritual warfare that was won. Now in the physical, they're losing control. And so this is the direct result of what you see manifesting is taking place. It's already happened in the spiritual now, so now it's happening in the physical. So let's get into, I want to see what's going on in terms of the Pluto coming back around for the U.S. corporation. What might this mean for them? Because as I said here, when Pluto comes back around, the U.S. must reconcile with the darker parts of its history. And that would be every fabric of it. Even before they signed the Declaration of Independence, it was still corruption, okay? And so what does this mean here? Because we know they've always kept watch of the stars, okay? This is something that they've always done in order to understand when to move in on certain things, when to enforce certain things, when to create distractions for the masses. They watched the planetary alignments, and they told us to not look into it and that it was wicked. They told you that if you was to look into the stars or astrology or astronomy or, use tarot and these different types of things, that you would go to hell based on their God that they created, though. But the reality is we've always had this ancient wisdom. We've always had access to these things. We've always known these things. As a matter of fact, they learned it from us. They took it from us and stole it from us and used it to their advantage and to our disadvantage. So let's see what's coming out first here. So, you see this? This says a tower for the U.S. corporation. So what does that mean? In the tarot deck, the Tower card is the energy of Scorpio. Scorpio's ruling planet is Pluto. Okay? So for this to come out first, y'all better get ready. There is a tower that is approaching for the U.S. corporation. This is what the energy of Pluto is bringing in. And what does a tower mean? A tower means that the entire structure is getting ready to come crashing down. Why? Because it was not built on a solid foundation. And I will be clarifying these cards with the tarot deck to see what's going to come out here. But we also have DNA that's coming out right now. Okay? DNA is coming out right now. So obviously we know that there is different things, these miniature swords that's being used. A large part of the agenda is to tamper with the DNA. Okay? So let's see what else is coming out here. What came out right behind that is say no. Okay? Now, it's no coincidence. It's very clear what that means, because I just mentioned miniature swords. You all know what that is. The miniature swords that are being used right now and enforced. Say no. Then you have here Revelations prophecy. So we are in the time of revelations. I say it all the time. We are in the age of Aquarius, in the time where the seeker, you go and seek the knowledge and you find it, where the truth is revealed. We are in the time of revelations, where things that are hidden are revealed. So we're talking about Revelations prophecy. And I did just mention prior that in the book of Revelations, I kept seeing a lot about scorpions coming in terms of the trumpets that would be sounded, the seven trumpets that would be sounded in the last days, and that scorpions would come out, and that a certain part of the population would be destroyed because of the sting of the scorpion. Okay, now everything is not to be taken literally. Okay, and so if we're talking about the sting of the scorpion, then it could very well be speaking on the sting of what this transit, or this shift of Pluto coming back around, what this means for the U.S. corporation. What does it mean? A tower is happening. In terms of DNA and saying no, you know what that means, because see, we're in a time of, in the age of Aquarius. We're talking about DNA activation happening right now for the masses, okay? For those of you who have done the work to heal, who have purged yourself of all of that negative energy that does not serve you. And if you have not fully done it, continue to do the work, because as we continue to move forward, as you continue to heal yourself, you continue to awaken from sleep. And as you awaken as a spiritual being, then the physical aspect of things have to follow suit. So as above, so below. You awaken as a spiritual vessel to who you are, and your DNA awakens. That dormant DNA that they call, that junk DNA, that 98% of DNA that's asleep, begins to awaken right alongside with your spiritual awakening. And this is what the powers that were did not want to see happen. And so now we are in the Revelations prophecy, where Revelation says that the head becomes the tail. Okay? The head becomes the tail. That's interesting, because when it comes to the scorpion itself, I believe the scorpion stings, the sting is in the tail. So they become the tail and they have to deal with that stinger. I believe this transit where Pluto came back around, this is like a major deal. And because it's 22222, you're talking about all of that energy that deals with balance. It's no coincidence that it happened on that particular day. We're talking about justice, the balance scales. Okay, those two scales that have to balance out, you now have to rectify, you now have to reconcile what you have done. And it's a lot. The debt, the amount of debt. We're not just talking about the physical debt, because we know that the monetary debt that the U.S. corporation is in is, well into the negatives, okay? Times the negatives. Go ahead, baby. And so, as a reflection of that, the spiritual debt that they are in is even, the magnitude of that is even more great, okay? So what else is coming out here in terms of how this Pluto return is affecting the U.S. corporation? We see the tower coming out first, okay? I'm happy to see that, okay? Now, we have here, look at that, rectify wrongdoing. This is what this Pluto return is bringing. They have to rectify the wrongdoings that they have done towards the people here on this land, okay? Now, y'all know who they did this against. Y'all know who the U.S. corporation has been largely against since they created this structure. They had to create this structure on the bloodshed of those who was here before they even built the structure. They had to kill off many of the natives, millions of natives, before they could actually build the structure. They put millions through slavery in order to create the structure. And then in order to maintain the structure, they kept their foot on the necks of those same people that they enslaved and murdered. So what does that mean? The same people who are now arising and awakening to the fact that they are gods, goddesses, and kings and queens have already been doing the work to establish that righteous judgment would be established on our behalf. Pull them up, baby. And so look at this. What else came out here is fighting for power, and then we also have 5G. Let me clarify what this means here. Go ahead, baby. Go lay down. Fighting for power and 5G. What is 5G? Because this just so happened to land right up underneath DNA. What is 5G? Illusion. 5G says illusion. What is 5G? Oh, 5G says wealthy, and DNA, wait a minute, prevent DNA activation. So I feel like the illusion is that this whole thing about 5G was to be an example of the newness of technology. It would be an example of where the world is headed in terms of technological upgrades. And so, of course, 5G would have to follow suit to be an example of where the world is headed and how technology is advancing and all of that. But that was the illusion. The true reason behind that is right here. Okay? The true reason behind it is right here. And so there has been a large war on the very fabric of your being, in the physical. They couldn't do nothing to the spiritual aspect of you, but they could create an illusion in terms of who you was spiritually and who you should be praying to spiritually and who you should be giving your energy to spiritually. That's what they did in the age of Pisces, when they was able to get away with it by working on your emotions, because Pisces is a water sign and it stands for emotions. But now that the energy has shifted to the age of Aquarius, now you are a thinker, now you are awakening, now you are seeking truth. Now you're not as easily influenced or convinced. And so in the age of Aquarius, like I told you all in my other videos, Aquarius is an air sign. And so generally I feel that the enemy's tactic is to work alongside the dominant energy of the age. And so in the age of Pisces, the dominant energy was surrounded by water. And so much of their warfare, in order to maintain their power, dealt with playing on the emotions of people. Okay? And that's why they was able to create this false illusionary God, and people were so drawn to it and cried to it every Sunday and, every day begging and pleading and waiting on this false illusionary God to come back and save them from themselves. Now in the age of Aquarius, where we're in the air sign, the war tactic of the enemy is to use the air, things in the air against the masses to maintain their power. And so I strongly sense that this energy right here, because it is in the air, we're talking about frequencies and radioactive waves and things of that nature, right? That is the weapon of choice. And this would be the desired outcome. Okay? And it's all about fighting for power at the end of the day. Fighting for power. And anytime you got to fight for power, it's only because there's a fear of losing that power. Anytime you have to take these types of drastic measures, it's only because you know that ultimately your position will be compromised based on the way that you came about creating that position of power. And so you constantly are in war mode. You constantly are in, strategically coming up with plans on how to maintain that position, because you don't want to face the darkness. But Pluto, the Most High constructed it so that you can't avoid it, because the Most High said, I'm going to set it up so that the energy shifts. You can't do nothing about that. the energy shifts so much so that all of those things that you buried and that you tucked away in that closet for so long and that you know, hid in the darkness and put behind those curtains, now you have to reveal it to the world. Because in the age of Aquarius, they're going to find out the truth anyway. You can't hide it. So now it's time for you to rectify your wrongdoings. Okay? Let me see. What is the Tower? I want to see. This is the first card that came out to clarify what Pluto meant. Okay? And the Pluto deals with the energy of Scorpio, and Scorpio is the Tower. The Tower is the Scorpio energy in the Tarot deck. So we're saying a tower is happening for the U.S. corporation. What does that look like? What is this Tower? Hmm. 5 to 10 years. So this tower may be getting ready to take place within 5 to 10 years from now. That's not a very long time from now at all. And so this is why I feel like these people are scrambling, because they know that the time is up. The clock has already struck 12. So now the position is to fight to maintain the power because it's already lost. It's not until the majority awaken to the fact that they no longer possess the power, that's when things come down. But as long as the majority is asleep and still believe that these people are in power and that they are in control of your life, then they can buy out a little bit more time. But 5 to 10 years from now, you might as well say the majority will be awakened. Those who need to be awakened will already be awakened. And so the energy is going to shift so much, because the energy that we actually, okay, as above, so below. The energy that we project as a collective body is what creates the environment necessary for certain empires to be established or to be destroyed. And so within 5 to 10 years from now, you got more awakened gods, goddesses, kings, and queens. You got many of the children who was born into the age of Aquarius, who 5 to 10 years from now will be adults, young adults who will be thinking on their own, who will have a great understanding of what's happening around them, and they will understand that they possess the power. They are they are already free. They have the birthright to be free, to just live and to not be trampled down and told what to do by a particular corporation, a business that was established through wickedness. These children that we have birthed, those of us who have awakened, we've birthed these children, we reared these children up, we nurtured these children. We say no. We say no to miniature swords, okay? We say no to miniature swords so that they can't do this to us, okay? They can't prevent our DNA from activating. And so therefore they can't do it to our children either. And so those children, they are the next generation that these people did not want to come into awakening. And so these are the messiahs that they wanted to sacrifice and crucify in order to maintain their position of power for another age. But it's not going to happen, okay? Revelation prophecy came out. We are in the times of revelations, and they know it. And as much as they've gone through this book, the Bible, and they've inserted things to work on their behalf, and they've removed most of it to work on their behalf, the prophecies still remain. They still possess all of that. So let's see, what does this say? Look at this, y'all. We got death. We have death of the U.S. corporation. We already had the tower of the U.S. corporation. And then here we have man-made viruses. If you didn't already know, if you didn't already know that this is not the result of a crazy bat. That crazy bat is in a lab coat, mixing things up, and been doing it for years, preparing for this time, in hopes that by the time they introduced enough fear tactics the majority will fall hook, line, and sinker because they trust these people. They trust their, their people with the fancy lab coats. They trust the media. They're still asleep enough to not know better. And they're still operating from a space of lack mentality to the point where even if you know better, you still won't refuse it because you're more concerned about your stability. They already knew. They was planning this, okay? Planning the illusion. Because the truth was behind all of this, but you had to have been in a space of awakening and seeking the truth in order to find it. So let me see. I want to see, what is this? I want to clarify the tower for the U.S. corporation because, I don't know about you. I'm cutting the deck at judgment. Okay, this is judgment time right here. This is the time of judgment. Okay, this is the time of, rectifying wrongdoings. So what is the tower for the U.S. corporation? Me personally, I'm excited about it. What's the tower? I'm cutting the deck at death. That's another Scorpio energy. The death card is Scorpio energy, Pluto energy. What's the tower? So we already saw judgment. We saw death. What is the tower for the U.S. corporation? Because then, as you know, a system that was so pressed to create power for themselves that they would kill off millions of people and lie and do sorcery. They was doing all types of witchcraft, all types of dark magic they was doing behind the scenes, okay? Please know this. And they would create a whole illusionary god. They would strip you of your identity, strip you of your culture, your wisdom. They would strip you of everything. They would take your history and tell you that they was those people. It wasn't you, because you dark skinned. No, it was not you. It was them. Okay? They was the Egyptians. Okay? They was everybody. Israelites and everybody. Okay? Right? They claiming it all. Why? Because when you're in a position of power, you're in the position to establish what history is. His story is what is being presented to the masses. His story, not your story and the truth about your history. No, that's being put into the archives for them to rummage through and read through so that they can learn how to be just as powerful as you were since the beginning of time. So let's talk about the tower. What is the tower for the U.S. corporation? What is the tower for the U.S. corporation? So as I was saying, any person, anyone who had to, it's about to be real emotional, okay? It's about to be a real emotional time because they got to let go. They've been holding on for dear life, okay? But this 9 of Wands in the reverse, that's a lot of emotion right there. That's an overflow of emotions that's happening. This ain't no good emotions that's coming in, okay? Because the Empress is in the reverse right here. And that's all about the Empress in the upright is all about abundance. That's all about creativity. That's all about, calling in that abundance, okay? That healing, that growth. There is no growth. We talking about the opposite of that. We're talking about having to release, having to let go. You've been holding on, hanging on for dear life. But now the tower for the U.S. corporation is a lot of emotions, over a floodgate of emotions. It's about to be real sad for these people. Okay, those who are the puppets as well as the puppet masters who sit behind the scenes, okay, and act like they're not there. The ghost. Okay. So one more for what this tower means for the U.S. corporation. Then I want to see what 5 to 10 years is because we saw that the tower, what clarified that was 5 to 10 years. So within 5 to 10 years, they're going to have to release their power. Something is going to happen where they have to release their so-called position of authority. 5 to 10 years. So what is the tower for the U.S. corporation? What flew out? Whew, baby. What flew out is death. And right behind that, we have the Hierophant coming out in the reverse. So death, the tower is death. It's over. The Hierophant in the reverse deals with that institution. It deals with that, those who are in a position of authority, okay? And sometimes it's also the religious structure, establishments, whatever type of structure this would be someone that's in a position of authority that's very influential on those around them, right? But in the reverse, you're losing that position of power. Why? Because you abused it. You abused that power. You, first of all, you took it when you did not deserve it. Took the power by killing folks and scaring people. Took it when you didn't deserve it, creating illusions for people. Then when you got it, you abused it all the way across the board in every way possible. They did everything anti-nature, anti-Christ, anti-humane, anti-justice. Everything was just backwards. Okay? Ass backwards. They abused their authority. So this is where the tower is coming in at, 5 to 10 years. Okay? So let's see what else I want to clarify here. I want to clarify in regards to, hold on. I want to clarify in regards to Revelation's prophecy. Okay? Because this is one of the first ones that came out as well. Revelation's prophecy. Let's clarify Revelation's prophecy. Y'all go and look into Revelations. Go into Google and look up the scriptures that speaks on the trumpets and the scorpions coming out. Revelation's prophecy is the world in reverse. So look at this. Oh my goodness. And the tower is right behind that. Okay. Now these two cards are in reverse because this is what they're trying to avoid. They know, they've been keeping up with the prophecies. They knew based on planetary alignments and shifts and prophecies and all of these things that their time would be up. But they're trying to prevent the closure from happening. They're trying to keep it from happening, but there's nothing that they can do because when this tower is in the reverse, it means that you're trying to prevent something that is inevitable from happening. So this is why they're trying to buy more time by trying to enforce certain things on the masses to put you back to sleep and hoping that your offspring will come out asleep so that they will not be awakened enough to recognize that they possess no power and that their time is up. But as long as you're asleep to that, then you give them more time. And so this is what they've been trying to hang on to. Revelation's prophecy is clarified by the world in reverse and the tower in the reverse. There's nothing that can be done about it. Why? Because they're going to lose. Ultimately, they are going to lose, and it's going to be a lot of weeping and mourning and gnashing of teeth. That's what the prophecy spoke of. Okay? It's about to be real dark. It's about to be real dark. Okay? Because they created their wealth and abundance and that generational wealth from a space of demonic entities, from a space of hatred, from a space of lies, criminality. These people are, first of all, these are the criminals, and they are in a position of authority. Last time I checked, you can't even become a doggone, you can barely work at McDonald's if you have a past history, if you have a criminal history. So we're talking about people who created the structure from bloodshed, murders, okay? Lies, illusion, identity theft. All of this is what they used to create the structure, then turned around and made laws to tell you that if you do it, you're going to jail because you are technically a criminal in the system. We the criminals will tell the criminals, U.S. corporation will tell you that you're the criminal, and we're going to incarcerate you if we find you outside with a half ounce of weed in your car and it's not legalized in your state. You're going to jail. But we, the criminals, the U.S. corporation, no, we establish the law. We do not abide by it, but we establish it, right? But what they fail to realize is that there's a law that's much greater than any policy, okay, that they can put into any little book. There's a greater judge that establishes the true authority, that establishes righteous judgment and justice on behalf of his children. They wanted to ignore that. Why? Because they put his children to sleep. And so if your children ain't acknowledging their father, then you can't tell your father those unjustified things. Yes, he might know that it's going on, but it's going to be a period of time before he actually steps in and reawakens you, okay? So the Most High, he's been well aware of what's been going on, but we had to go asleep for a minute so that when we came back to awaken, we will be that much more powerful, okay? So the Revelations prophecy is showing that the tower is here and that the world is here, to indicate that this cycle, this chapter is closing out and they are barely hanging on by a thread. So let me just clarify, what is DNA all about? Because this has come out a couple of times here. What is DNA all about? Strength in reverse. Strength in reverse. Strength in reverse. I keep saying this because your power in your physical vessel lies in your DNA expression. Your true strength lies in your DNA activation. That's where your power lies. And so clarifying this is strength in reverse, because see, if we can bring forth, this is what the enemy is thinking, if we can do something to put the DNA to sleep in this time of awakening, then we can buy more time. We can take the strength, remove the strength from Samson. We can remove the strength from the lion. We can remove the strength from that god and that goddess and those offspring that they will bear, if we can just get to the core of their physical expression. And it's not just your physical expression. Each DNA strand, I believe they said, I can't even quote how many miles, they say one DNA strand, or, when you put them all together, each DNA strand will go for miles and miles and miles out, because it's so much information that is within the DNA. And so when you have a person, a whole group of people who are asleep, then so the DNA is also a reflection of the collective consciousness. So if the collective consciousness is asleep spiritually, then on a physical level, the mirror reflection of that is the majority of the DNA will also be asleep. And so that's why they say you have junk DNA, 98% junk DNA, but it's not junk. It's just been waiting for you to awaken, so that then it can awaken. And once it starts to express itself, you become this super powerful being that cannot be touched, because you've established yourself not only spiritually, but physically. Your vessel is now following suit with that spiritual power that you have now reclaimed. That's always been there, but it was put asleep. And so now you take back your power and your dominion even over the animal kingdom. The animals bow down to you, because at that point they recognize who you are. I think that's probably one of the reasons why the animals stopped respecting the human being, because most of the DNA, the core of what you are, was asleep. And so in that energy, it's almost like going up to a lion who most of its DNA and its remembrance of who it is asleep. And so you can go up and smack that lion in the face and it ain't going to do nothing to you, because it has lost its remembrance of the power that it possesses and the authority that it has. But when the human being awakens, the gods and goddesses awaken, and that DNA awakens alongside it, because that infinite wisdom that you've been able to establish between yourself, the Most High, and the spiritual realm and all things that exist around you, you take back dominion even over the animal kingdom. Oh, this thing is getting real deep. So this is what they wanted to avoid. And quite naturally, sure, you talking about that's what your DNA, your awakened DNA is going to do. And that's only touching the surface of what your awakened DNA is going to allow you to do. Okay. So let me see. What can we expect moving forward in terms of their position? Okay. Because now we're starting to understand why these particular WARs are breaking out. It's because within the household, their household, everybody is fighting up against each other now. Everybody's trying to figure out, well, who's going to lose their power first? Because I'm not ready to go out. I'm not ready to go out. So I'll take your kingdom down first before I go out. Because most of them have been established from very unjustified and demonic means, okay? And so now the family is fighting up against one another. So what can we expect from the U.S. corporation now that they have, now that we see the towers coming out? What's getting ready to happen here? What are they doing? Okay. So they see that the battle has already been lost, okay? Five of Swords in reverse. They don't want no smoke. They see that the battle has already been lost. They're having to face the fact that, the marriage that we had with them in our asleep state, it's almost like they drugged us and made us get married to them. And in that asleep state, we actually, rendered our energy towards them and did it, very proudly. Stood in those lines to vote for the next president and did the whole 9 yards, okay? Because we were asleep and we thought that we was actually a part of the structure that was actually the whole time, not the whole time, from the very beginning all the way up until now, was doing everything necessary to prevent you from rising to your divinity, but yet you'll go stand in line and vote for the next one to come in, who's also going to be a part of the whole agenda to keep you asleep and to keep their foot on your neck. Now we've awakened. So they know that the relationship is done. They know the battle has been lost. They just trying to move ahead. They trying to figure out what they can do, where they can go. They probably trying to, because look, judgment is here at the bottom of the deck. They know that we have awakened. We've arisen from sleep. We ain't no dry bones no more. We have awakened, okay? Because the trumpet, there's that trumpet that I was speaking on in the very beginning in Revelations, because the prophecy of Revelations is here, okay? The trumpet, here's the prophecy of Revelations is here. The trumpet is sounded, okay? Those 7 angels that spoke on it, it's time. The dead shall arise. We shall awaken, okay? We couldn't stay asleep. This was the time for us to awaken in the age of Aquarius, in the time of Revelations. And so this is why these people, they trying to think of ways, they might even be looking to go to another planet at this point. They don't know what the hell to do. They just looking far off, trying to figure out which direction they can go, because it's over with. They took it too far. They tipped the scales way too far. And so when you tip the scales that far, then imagine how much rectifying you have to do. They can't even begin to imagine what's getting ready to come down on their heads. I'm sure they have an idea, though. Look at that. 10 of Pentacles is in the reverse. They losing everything. All of that generational wealth that they stored up off of our bloodshed, off the bloodshed of our ancestors. The 8 of Wands is in reverse. No more forward movement for these people, okay? And so they already know. So in terms of what they're planning to do, I don't think that there's anything that they can do, okay? This is the energy that they in. They stress the hell out. All they want to do is just be able to come up out of this energy. They don't want to have to deal with it. They don't want to have to face it. But it's nothing that they can do, okay? They have to look back at all of those damn rotten ass seeds that they planted in the past. That's all they can do, is stand there and, maybe look at the harvest that they've been able to accumulate, the power that they've been able to create, okay? They're hoping for a new beginning, though. That's what they're hoping for. They might even try to make some sort of offer to rectify their wrongdoing. But we're not being merry with these people. We're not being cheerful with these people anymore. We know that they are not our friends, okay? They are not for us. They've always been against us. And so they might want to try to make an offer in hopes that it'll bring, make us, allow us to trust them again. What happened when we trusted them in the first place? What happened when the Native Indian, when the Native American, those who was naturally the Aborigines that was on this soil, what happened to them when they trusted these people when they first came over here? They gave them smallpox and all types of stuff, man-made disease, to kill them off so that they could create their power. So they've had a pattern of these behaviors. And we, in our sleep state, had a pattern of trusting them when they would come in with their little gifts and their little, smooth talk, their slick words. But it's over with. What else is coming out? The star is here. It's done. Okay. Ain't no more wish fulfillment. Okay. It's over with. So I feel like they know that it's over. So now in desperate attempts, they're just doing a little bit of just anything. The whole house is divided. That's why they're starting to fight up against each other. And, All we can do at this point, just sit back and watch. Just sit back and watch. Okay? Sit back and watch, because see, we moving towards our happiness, okay? We moving towards the sun. We are the children of the sun. As a matter of fact, we are the children of the sun. The sun is activating our DNA as we speak, and it is also sterilizing the planet of those things that shouldn't be here. People, places, and things. Okay? So, let me just see if there's anything else that I need to tell y'all before I close out. I don't know. I'll just say this. The truth, the Ace of Swords is all about the truth, okay? We've gained clarity. We got the sword of truth, and it's time that we cut ourselves free from being stuck and feeling mentally entrapped and feeling like we don't have the freedom to move about as we so please, okay? We are no longer avoiding the truth, okay? Because the truth is right there in your face. There's no more avoiding it. There's no more going back to sleep. It's now time to use that sword of truth to cut out all people, place, things, belief systems, say no to miniature swords, okay? Step into your power and know that it is our time because theirs is up. So what happens when their time is up? You got to step into position. You have to ready yourself and be prepared to create the new kingdom that is being established through the gods and goddesses, kings and queens. So I love you all. That's the message. Like I said, go back and check my other video, so you can get some understanding in terms of the predictive energy that I saw in terms of the U.S. corporation and their plan, because there was much more to that than what I was able to read into at that time. I read it on the surface, but behind that, it was saying much more in terms of an unhealthy relationship that was getting ready to go bad, and it was about to cause a big battle, WAR, which is what is happening right now. And those words actually came out specifically in that it was all about that behind the scenes. It was a plan of a war that would be breaking out. So go back and check out that message. And I love you all. Stay light in your energy. Continue to put the energy out there because now's the time of reconciling. They have to do it because the energy has shifted. Okay, they're being called to do it, so we have to still put that energy out there of I declare and I decree that righteous judgment and justice will be established on behalf of myself, my ancestors, and all who have been negatively impacted and affected by the criminality of the U.S. corporation and all who work alongside it. And so it is in spirit and in flesh. We establish it in the spiritual realm. Get ready. Get ready. I love y'all, and I'll talk to you all next time.